Okay, firstly, how good was that panel? Maybe we should evict politicians more often. What do you think? It's like we unelected them. I'm going to ask you, because you asked a really, really very direct question about the fact that you want to be an astronaut, to an astronaut. Yes. What did you make of the answer?
She gave a really good answer. I really appreciate hearing from someone who's out there and doing what I really want to do. It's really cool to see that. And I think the Australian space sector, again, is such good evidence of it, has a lot to give to the world. We really do. And so it's inspiring for me to see that. But also, at the same time, a little disappointing she's overseas. Maybe that's where I'm going to have to be too, rather than here.
Are you really, when you think about your future, does it upset you that you have to leave?
I love living in Australia. It's where I've lived my whole life. I'm not sure it upsets me that I have to leave, because that's just another adventure, just like space is, really. It's all one big adventure, so that's awesome. But Australia has a lot to give to what I actually study, ancient life, the origin of life on Earth, the oldest evidence of life on Earth, and all the geology and ancient environments that surround that. So staying here is actually a career advantage for me to study those rocks and those fossils. So for me to leave just means a lot of plane tickets to come back to look at the rocks that I've spent a lot of time working on, which seems like quite a waste and really a lot of carbon emissions that I don't want to be putting out.
Okay, now that is a very good perspective. And go and do your adventures and come back. Can we make a deal?
Sure.
Okay, a deal has been made. Now, there was another excellent question about... It was you, I remember you, and your question about our children losing their jobs. I thought that was an excellent question about AI and the future of jobs. Did you feel better about the answer? Do you feel kind of okay about your children's future?
Yes, no, yes. I mean...
What's yes, no, yes?
There has been so many publicity about AI, but, from my reviews and follow-ups, there hasn't been much, said or to manage and mitigate the risk. So, for young people, where does that leave them when we talk about growing the population, knowing that there is a possibility that you will have a child tomorrow, go to uni, graduate, and will not get a job because he studied business management, and all the employers in that field uses AI. So there is a bit of anxiety in that area. So if they could shed more light on how to manage the risk to ensure that the growing population will not be disadvantaged or will not have a bunch of unemployed population, young people that will be feeding off, Centrelink. That is number one. Number two, when I came in, I had a chat with another scientist, who is also here. From what she said, pretty much the same thing with what the unique guy said. Sorry, I can't remember his name said, Yeah, mascot. So we have to, master the chat GPT, for an example, AI, and optimize the opportunity it presents to advance ourselves. Yes, we can do that, but it's still not...
We haven't got all the answers yet.
Exactly, and still not providing satisfactory solution with our growing population, especially with the future people.
Thank you. Now, I see some students, and it strikes me, don't worry, you're going to be safe. It strikes me that maybe you might be using this technology. Have any of you used ChatGPT? Fess up. I'm not saying to submit your work, just for research.
I mean, we're told to check it in math. Like, my math teacher encourages us. So say when we're doing homework at home, she encourages us to check our answers and to double check to make sure that we understand. And because quite often it will show the solution, which helps us get a better understanding. And then moreover, we can go to our teacher the next day and ask more to understand the content.
Right. So it's a tool.
I'm currently studying Japanese, and my teacher encourages me to use ChatGPT over Google Translate because it is just straight more accurate, and it is a better tool for me to actually learn the direct translations than the tools that we had previously, like Google Translate.
And have you found it helpful?
Absolutely, it is very helpful, and especially in like learning languages and stuff like that.
There you go.
Well, I do ancient and modern history, so obviously there's a lot of historical inquiries and investigations, and we need to look a lot at secondary and especially with ancient history, primary sources. And it can be really difficult when museums or other sources of education and information may restrict accessibility to primary sources, whether it's an ancient site or artifacts or texts that aren't very easy to come by. So using a tool like ChatGPT that can look through thousands of articles, thousands of websites and pages in just seconds can really help, because it'll find something that you may not be able to find for days, maybe weeks.
Guys, I used to have to go to this place at the end of my street called the library. And it took ages to find the book, and then I often couldn't carry it home because it was very heavy. But you know what? Live your best lives. I just finally want to end on this issue of the climate and the climate warming and the kind of answers we got on that, particularly from the chief scientist, that we're just not travelling fast enough perhaps at the transformation. Put your hand up if you found that conversation, I'm looking for hands now, about anyone who was particularly interested in the climate change conversation. And it's back to the youth. Actually, not that you're not young. Clearly, they might be younger.
Well, according to the scientists, 37 is when you break down, so I'm near the end.
That kind of freaked me out, actually. I was like, great, I'm now dead.
I think the climate conversation is always terrifying, because there's an existential dread about whether or not we can actually reverse it and whether there's a point in continuing. And I think for a lot of people I know my age, 30 onwards, like where this has just been a constant conversation since I was their age, there is a sense of dread, and it's easy to get stuck into it. So I think it's really important to hear the scientists talk about the solutions that exist.
Yeah. And just finally to you.
I found it quite overwhelming when all this information is like presented to you, and like, what can we really do about it? I mean, there's so much factors that we have to consider in order to like reduce this, and we're not going fast enough. I mean, what can we really think about the future? How are they going to handle this?
Well, I see here debating an SRC member. An SRC member often leads to running for parliament, so that's one way. You could run for politics.
That's too hard, man.
No. Anyway, you've been an excellent audience. Come again. Thank you very much.